welcome to livealittlehigher.com. This week we learned Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, chapter 4, Mishna 17, in which Rabbi Shimon said there are three crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of Kehuna, priesthood, and the crown of Malchut, kingship. But the crown of a good name is greater than them all. So here in the book of Shem Mishmuel gives a beautiful interpretation to this Mishnah, and it's very interesting because this week we learned Parashat Vayekel, in which Hashem commands Moshe to tell the Jewish people to build the tabernacle. So we're in tune between the Mishnah and the Torah portion, and it says that three of the four primary objects in the holiest part of the Beit HaMikdash had crowns. And in this respect, we're talking about the Mishkan also. That is the golden rims decorating them, the Ark of the Covenant, the golden table, the Shulchan, and the golden altar had rims. But the menorah, which was the fourth artifact that was inside of the tabernacle, had no rims. So the ark, which contained the luchot, the two tablets that contain the Ten Commandments, given by God to Moshe and the Jewish people, obviously correspond to the crown of Torah. The golden altar on which the Kohanim used to offer the incense corresponds to the crown of Kehuna, of priesthood. And the golden table, the Shulchan, on which the showbread, the special breads were placed, correspond to the crown of the Malchut, which is kingship. And the Midrash tells us that the menorah, which had no crown, corresponds to the crown of a good name. Let us investigate the meaning of this. So, what is in a crown? The word used in the Torah for crown, for decorative crowns on the sacred objects in the Mishkan, was ser. This word is closely related to the word Nazir that comes from Nazarite. And a Nazarite, it was a person who dedicated his life to God, and for a certain period of time he stopped drinking anything that had to do with grapes, like he would have no wine and no grape juice. He would also abstain from cutting his hair, and the most important thing that he would stop doing, he would avoid contact with the dead, with dead corpses. So for this, the Nezer crown of God is upon his head, says the Bamidbar. So the crown of God is upon his head. Know that all humans serve earthly desires. We all, as human beings, we seek pleasure and we run away from pain. But the true king, who has the crown and diadem of Malchut on his head, is one who is free from earthly desires. So it seems that the Zer symbolizes raising oneself above the usual desires of humanity and entering holier and more spiritual realm. Just as the crown sits on the king's head above his whole person, so that the spiritual crown sets a person above norms and physical world. So the Torah scholar and the Kohanim and the king, they were people that were above everybody else. They had to behave in a very special way. They were the representatives of the Jewish people. They had a big mission, and they were the example for the rest of the Jewish people. So if they didn't behave in the right way, holier and in a higher way, then what could happen to the rest of the Jewish people? So they had a very big responsibility, and because of this also they were given great honor. And the problem with great honor and great respect towards a person is that it can make a person arrogant in himself. This is the counterpart of a person that is so holy. So a person that is so learned in Torah, if he doesn't work very hard on maintaining himself a humble person, he can become a despot and a tyrant, as we see with many leaders in the world. So each of the three vessels in the Mishkan, which represent the Torah, Malchus, and Kehuna, indicate that there is a need to rise above the potential harmful elements inherent in each concept, and Torah study, while clearly essential to Jewish life, carries a possibility of arrogance. Indeed, excellence at Torah study can result in a false feeling of superiority over other peers. And the king obviously has to be very careful with this trait, because he can become a very despotent and an evil person if he doesn't maintain his head where it should be, and understanding that he's the one that has to take care that the people have food in their lives. Like we see it today with Venezuela, for example. This guy, I don't like to talk about politics, but we can see it's in the Torah, because the shulchan, the table where the bread was put, is correspondent to the king. And one of the things that he's most responsible of is to make sure that all the people of his country have what to eat. He's responsible for that. So similarly, the Cohen also commands a position of great respect in the community, whose atonement, Torah study, and many other factors depend on him. So also this position can be abused. So we see a great scholar, a king, a leader, or a priest can also abuse their positions and become and not live up to what they are supposed to be. So Torah, Malchut, and Kehunah need special attention to ensure that they are used only for holy rather than self-seeking purposes, and the crowns on the ark, table, and altar represent these constant needs. So they were reminders that they should always remember that they have a crown on top of their head and what this represents. However, the menorah, which represents the good name attained by a member of the Jewish people, it can be any person. It can be the person that sweeps the floors in a hotel. It can be anybody. He has the power himself to make a good name for himself by the way he treats others, by the way he treats people with his money, and he makes a good name. And this is not looked by the person. Like a person doesn't make for himself a good name. The other people give him a good name. So here we learn that the lamps of the menorah shine forth with the glow of godly light, which can be received and internalized by all who seek it. So it's something that everybody can attain. Everybody can attain a good name. You don't need to be a Torah scholar. You don't need to be a priest. You don't need to be a king to attain a good name. So there is no potential bad associated with this pure divine influence, because a person that attains a good name is because it's a person that in his essence is a humble person to begin with. He has no agenda of his own. He's just a good person. So only good for those who are prepared for it. Thus the menorah alone among the vessels in the Beit HaMikdash had no crown, no golden rim. It didn't need it. And the light of the menorah always was going upwards. So a person, when he's living a godly life, a holy life, he's worried about other people, he's taking care of others, he's not stealing, he's righteous, then his light is always going to go upwards. And this is what it's represented in the menorah. So I wish you a blessed week, and remember, live a little higher. Thank you.